And so it is in the midst of Thanksgiving Sunday and Anniversary Sunday, where we have so much to be grateful for. We now invite our co-chairs of our Christian Commitment Campaign, Bert DeArmas and Amy Foust, to come forward. Each of them, by the way, with their own microphones. We're trying to be careful. They're each going to come forward and update and talk about the Christian Commitment Campaign, it's Christian Commitment Sunday.
Thanks, Al. It's incredible that we're celebrating Plymouth's 123rd birthday. She didn't look a day over 80. Imagine what the folks that sat in your pews, in these pews, had to live through just to build this church. First of all, life back then was, there were no roads. You're living at the edge of a swamp. Very little electricity, no air conditioning, and mosquitoes. They called the mosquitoes swamp angels because there were so many of them they could actually lift you up. And just think of this building, built in 1917, right during a World War. And right after it's constructed, you have the Spanish flu. Very similar to what we're facing now, actually worse. And then Al talked about the hurricanes. The hurricane of 1926 hit this community with Category 4, and they had 145-mile-an-hour winds, and there was a 15-foot sea surge 2 blocks that way. That was scary. Now, a lot of us have lived through hurricanes and know how bad that is. But right after that, you had the Depression. Now, you'd had a big land boom, and things were booming, and things were growing great. You have the double whammy, you have the hurricane, and you have the Depression. How the church survived then, I don't know. So when Chris and I joined this church quite a few years ago, there were a lot of folks here that had been members here for many, many years. And as I got to know them, I was really impressed by a lot of the folks that you met and what their lives were like and what the history that they'd led. We had a lot of folks here that were World War II vets, Korean vets, Vietnam vets. And when you talk to them, when you got to know them, you know that they'd seen things that are unspeakable. And they had to participate in things that were unspeakable. And this church to me was, and it had to be to them, had to be a solve against that. It had to be something that they used to be able to deal with that. Now, I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, and some of you have, I see old faces, so I know that some of you share these memories too. Today is the 57th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Now, I remember that as a 5-year-old. And I know that my kids will always remember where they were during the World Trade Center. And you can probably bet that the children that normally sit there will know what happened up to George Floyd. So Plymouth is a refuge from that. It's an oasis from that and how to deal with that. Now, no time and no life is without some hardship. And the stresses that we face today have been faced by Plymouth before. And people here have always had a shoulder to cry on and had helped shoulder that burden. So we face tough times today, but we're here because of the efforts and sacrifices of the folks that sat where you sit. And it's their efforts and their striving that has brought us to here today, which is what Amy talked about last week with respect to generations of generosity. And we are grateful for them, and we need to show that gratitude in continuing that effort. So I'm going to turn it over now to Amy so she can talk about Plymouth Now and our Christian Commitment Campaign.
Hello? Oh, that one works. Gratitude. Okay. So we have our own challenges today, and we also have more spiritual outreach than ever. The church has invested in skills and technology to keep us connected at a time when that's become very challenging. And those investments have cost actual dollars at a time when some of our funding sources have fallen off. The donations that we get from non-member weddings and baptisms, we're really struggling on both sides of our cash flow equation. Increased cleaning, complimentary hand sanitizer, these are part of our new normal, and they're not free. So at the moment, we have both the expenses of maintaining this beautiful campus because we want to come back, and the expenses of maintaining and expanding an online presence to sustain us until we can get back here in person. Now, some of you who have never pledged make weekly offerings, and I want you to know those gifts are cherished. They're used with the same gratitude and for the same purposes as pledges. The pledges, however, give us a sense of the possibilities for this year. How much can we expand? How much can we do? How much of our mission work can we expand in the face of increased need across all of our mission programs? And so the pledges help us to make bold plans and to really maximize our investment in our fellowship and in our community. And while it would be fun to go out in a big bang of spending, to just fund all of the activities that are really important to us, I think most of us want to keep the lights on here. We want the church to remain healthy and available and sustainable. And a pledge has the advantage over a weekly offering of helping the church plan and make good decisions so that we can do both, so that we can grow, so that we can invest in our community and our fellowship, and we can responsibly sustain the church. Now, I know pledging might feel like a really big ask in a year marked by uncertainty. And so I want to say, and I hope Al will ratify this for me, we have never sent anyone to collections. Never happened. So we know that the best laid plans sometimes don't work out. And I want you to consider your pledge an act of faith, that your circumstances will persist and improve, and we will hope and pray for you that they will too. And if you just like putting an offering in the plate every week, that counts toward your pledge. You can make your pledge weekly. And it's easy. It's easy to make your pledge. There's a cute little card in your pew. If you run out, if they're very popular, you can get more in the back. We'll happily provide you one or mail you another one. You just fill out your name. You can do your name. You can do it. I have faith. And this year, there's a new line at the bottom in bold. It says, please also contact me about opportunities to serve the church. And I think that's important because the very best way to see and appreciate how your pledges are used are to get involved in what they do, in the mission work, in the sustenance of the church, in the management of the church business. So get involved and see. We invite you to participate in how those monies are used. And thank you. Plymouth has a history of overcoming challenges. We know that Plymouth now will do the same with your help. We thank you for your commitment to the church and its work, and we look forward to your gifts of time and talent and treasure.